Hi everyone, this is Sam with the Wine News in 5. Before I get to the news, I'd like to mention some events we're hosting, our friends are hosting, and that we're very much in support of. Last week I told you about our Teams event on October 30th at the Morris in San Francisco. Jancis Alder and I are also gathering on October 29th at CIA Copia in Napa for a panel discussion on the California wine industry, 25 years of jancisrobinson.com, and anything else you'd like to ask us about. After the panel, we'll meet you for a glass of English fizz. You can purchase tickets to these events at jancisrobinson.com, and for Londoners, we will have an event in mid-November, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for details on that one. In the meantime, you could sign up for an incredible Loire walk-around tasting on November 4th, being put on by our friends Beverly Blanning, MW, author of Wines of the Loire Valley, and Rebecca Gibb, MW, the Loire specialist for Venice Media. The lineup of producers pouring wines looks incredible. There's also a raffle going on right now for War Child UK, which is an organization raising funds for children affected by conflict around the world. The prizes include some top-notch wines and fine dining experiences in London that are donated by wineries, restaurants, and fine wine merchants. I'll link to all of these events in the transcript of this newscast. In terms of global news, today I'll discuss the EU's proposal to develop faster and clearer procedures to benefit the agricultural industry, yesterday's UN General Assembly on the prevention and control of non-communicable diseases, a strike in British Columbia that's affecting the wine industry, an extension on importing grapes for Canadian wine, and recent statistics related to UK duty hikes. First up, the EU's proposal to develop faster and clearer procedures to benefit the agricultural industry. On September 16th, the EU published a proposal to increase the competitiveness of farmers in the EU. This proposal would, I quote, reduce the administrative burden on member state authorities regarding marketing authorizations for plant protection products, as well as establishing faster and clearer procedures for drones, biocides, feed additives, hygiene rules, and official controls. Now, if you'll remember, last week I discussed how ANSES, the French Agency for Food, Environmental, and Occupational Health and Safety, had failed to renew marketing authorizations for 20 out of 22 copper-containing fungicides that are considered by many farmers to be vital to the French wine industry. The way this new proposal reads, much of what member states currently authorize in terms of farming would instead be decided by the EU Commission, which is trying to address the unequal availability of plant protection products for farmers in different member states, and is also concerned about the limiting of protection products when there are no viable alternatives. So if you're a farmer in the EU and you'd like to support or oppose this proposal, Brussels is taking public comments until October 14th, and I'll include the link to submit in the transcript of this newscast. Next, yesterday's UN General Assembly on the prevention and control of non-communicable diseases. On September 25th, the UN held its fourth high-level meeting on non-communicable diseases and mental health. The result was a political declaration that will guide global health guidelines through 2030. Journalist Felicity Carter of Drinks Insider was there and reported that this declaration does not include commitments to raise taxes, restrict availability, or include cancer warnings on alcohol. In fact, it doesn't even include language implying all drinking is dangerous. It very reasonably focuses on harmful consumption, which is a huge relief to the wine industry. On to a strike in British Columbia affecting the wine industry. On September 2nd, the BC General Employees Union, the BCGEU, went on strike, demanding wage increases in line with inflation and cost of living. Union President Paul Finch says they originally targeted government operations while minimizing disruptions to the public, but when the provincial government refused to come to the table, they expanded the strike to target front-facing operations, including the alcohol industry. On September 22nd, the BC Liquor Distribution Branch, the BCLDB, announced the temporary closure of its head office, distribution centers, and wholesale customer centers. This effectively gridlocks BC's alcohol industry. The BCLDB has a monopoly on distribution of imported products, meaning that liquor stores, wine shops, and restaurants cannot order imported products. They can only order from local wineries or distilleries who have their own distribution networks. Businesses are able to collect revenue from selling current inventory and local products, but the reality is that the majority of their sales are imported wine and liquor. Meanwhile, the importers themselves cannot collect any income, but are still required to pay warehousing and transportation costs to the BCLDB. Thank you to news listener Pablo Sanz for explaining this to me. I had no idea how badly this hurt importers. If you're Canadian and you care about local restaurants, wine retailers, and importers, I encourage you to call your MLAs, members of the Legislative Assembly, and insist that they negotiate with the union as soon as possible. Rumor is that the provincial government has not even started negotiations. Next, an extension on importing grapes for Canadian wine. Back in January 2024, a cold snap caused freeze damage to vines across British Columbia and all but wiped out the 2024 crop. In July 2024, the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General announced a temporary measure had been passed to allow BC's land-based wineries, or LBWs, to sell wine made with imported grapes, grape juice, or unfinished wine and label it crafted in BC. That measure was set to expire March 31st, 2026, but on September 23rd, the government announced that it would extend the measure for another year in order to make up for the fact that the province is 10,000 tons short of meeting market demand. This is due in large part to replanted vineyards not yet yielding a crop. While this would be welcome news to most wineries, it's a bit late. 2025's harvest is well underway, and many wineries who might have bought grapes from Washington or Oregon would have called their picks weeks ago. It seems that if they want to capitalize on this, they'll have to scramble to buy unfinished wine. On to recent statistics related to UK duty hikes. Back in 2023, the UK's government pushed through the largest alcohol tax hike in nearly 50 years. They also came up with the ridiculous duty escalator that went into effect in February of this year. In 2024, the Labour Party took over and raised duty 3.6%. The government has said they were doing this to increase Treasury revenues. Miles Beale, chief executive of the Wine and Spirit Trade Association, warned the government that the duty hike would depress sales for an already struggling industry and result in less Treasury revenue. On September 19th, his predictions were confirmed. His Majesty's Revenue and Customs latest alcohol duty receipts show that revenue has declined 4.3%, with wine dropping 6%, spirits 5%, and beer 2.5%. Beale was quoted by Harper as saying, "Instead of bringing in more cash to plug the black hole in public finances, they've carved out a loss of over £220 million in the first 5 months of this financial year compared to the same period last year. The only way to break the cycle of tax duty increases, depleting Treasury funds, and fueling inflation is to freeze excise duty on wine and spirits at the November budget." Perhaps the government will listen to him this time. That's all I have for you in terms of news. I'll be gone for the next 2 weeks, and the Wine News in 5 will be on break until I return. That doesn't mean you shouldn't email me news. As soon as I get back, I'll be sorting through all your emails, answering you, and putting together a jam-packed newscast for October 17th. So please send news to news@jancesrobinson.com. And if you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please become a member of jancesrobinson.com. Thanks.